Hi, everyone. Well, we're joining today for our second podcast. I'm here in the city center of Zagreb, sitting in a beautiful park at 14 degrees outside, and it's sunny today. It's amazing. I can tell you the spring is coming. So I needed to come out and do this podcast here. Today with us, we have Nicolas Horky, the fund manager of the OTT Ventures Hotel Fund. Nicolas, actually, welcome first of all. It's really nice to talk to you today. Tell us, where are you joining us from?
So I'm not as lucky as you. So I'm not outdoors. I'm actually joining you from Smetana Hotel, which is a luxury property that is part of our family office, OTT Properties. And actually, OTT Ventures is the private equity arm and fund management platform of that family office. So it's one of our properties. We have one hotel property. It's in a prestigious location in Prague.
But you told me that it won an award.
Oh, it has won quite a few awards actually over the years. I don't have them all off the top of my head because I haven't followed up a lot, but it's probably one of the best properties. It's actually right in the old town with fantastic views actually over Charles Bridge. I can actually probably show you. I'll see if I can just
show us the view.
Charles Bridge and the castle from. I went into actually one of the nicest rooms we have, which is actually one of the suites. See, actually, the weather's not as nice as in Zagreb.
Yes, but it's amazing view. Wonderful. So, is the property open at the moment?
So I'll just close the door. Sorry, you were saying, Marina?
Is the property open at the moment?
So the property is not, let's say, officially open at the moment, but let's say when we have business groups calling us from time to time, let's say a film crew, for instance, will of course try to see if you can accommodate their needs. I've been talking to quite a few operators, and that's a way, let's say, to make things going at the moment. So sometimes you can get 10, 15, 20 rooms at once, and then keep guests for 1 or 2 months, which is not too bad. So it helps paying some of the salaries and let's say keep the hotel in operation. So at the moment it's not, let's say, not officially open. If you call for a room, you won't be able to have a room, and leisure guests are not allowed at the moment in the Czech Republic.
If you call for 15 rooms, then you might.
Exactly, the business first. So and of course it has to remain business because that's what we're allowed to do in the Czech Republic.
Okay. Well, Nicolas, I've known you now for quite a bit of time, and well, you joined OTT Ventures just shortly, a couple of months ago. Can you tell us about what is your goal and what you're looking for working with OTT?
Yeah, okay, fine. So first of all, I'll give you a bit of a background. So as you said, OTT Ventures, it's a private equity arm and fund management platform of OTT Properties. And OTT Properties actually is the family office of Jean-François Hott, who created Oracle Property Group back in 1991 and sold it to CPI Property Group back in 2014. And I've been in contact with Jean-François for quite some time. I actually started my career back in 2005 with him. Part of the hotel business, which was Ma Maison Hotels and Apartments, a hotel chain that he actually created with Nicolas Tomasini back in the days. I think it was 1999, probably.
Long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But I joined the team only in 2005, fresh out of school. So I worked with him quite a few years. And so between 2005 and 2009, I worked for the hospitality division in Prague, in Croatia, when we acquired Sunčania Far. And then relocated to Paris to work on a few strategic projects for the company. And I then set up my business, actually a consulting business in Prague back in 2009, did that for 6 years. And then later on joined Principal Real Estate Europe's hotel team in 2015, covering all European markets. So that's on the background. The idea that we had with Jean-François actually last year when I came back to Prague is that the conditions on the market are actually great to set up a hotel fund and start buying hotel properties. We know that we'll see some good opportunities coming onto the market in the coming quarters. And we thought that, of course, on top of the market conditions, we believe there's a great potential in the region. We know that the short-term conditions might help us in getting good opportunities.
And tell me, well, you just kind of announced my second question. So you said there will be some good deals coming up.
Yeah, so
already see them on the market? Where do you see them? You know that everyone is looking for good deals, so share a bit with us.
Well, exactly. Well, you have a good point. Everybody's looking for good deals, but they haven't been. I mean, we haven't identified a lot at the moment. Let's say that there's a handful of good opportunities at the moment that would have like discounts of 10 to 15%. There's the thing is that there's a lot of money on the market with people willing to deploy capital, and on the other side we have vendors trying to hold on to their properties because they don't want to sell, of course, with these market conditions. So so we've seen basically what we've seen on the market is a substantial drop in liquidity. So at the moment, there's not a lot of transactions, and the few transactions that occurred have, I think, have had, like, let's say, limited discounts. We personally, we've reviewed probably 40 deals over the last 3 or 4 months. We've identified 4 or 5 opportunities on which we're working on at the moment, and that show a discount of 10 to 15%. And actually, the fact that we don't see a lot yet is, I think, that all the large operators will manage to go through the crisis and are not in a position where they have to sell. Though we might start seeing, I'd say, opportunities in the coming quarters with small owner-operated properties where the owners are facing financial difficulties. They might have managed actually through the last year or so, thanks to subsidies, but they won't be able to do that forever. So we might see some opportunities. It's not good for these operators, of course, but we can try to find some ways of working things out with them. So.
And where would you be interested to put your money?
So at the moment, we're focusing on the core markets of Central Europe, so Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia. In the Czech Republic, we might focus on the top 3-4 markets. Poland, the top 7-8 markets, and in Hungary and Slovakia, we'll focus on the capital cities. The reason behind this is that we look at the most liquid markets, and of course we're a fund. So when we buy a property, we already have to think about the exit. So we have to be able to exit in 3, 5, 7 years when we actually decide that it's the right time to do so. So that's why we focus on the most liquid markets. We might, let's say, on a case-by-case basis, look at Germany and Austria, but we think it'll be challenging in terms of pricing. And once we've actually worked on our seed portfolio, so let's say the first 1, 2, 3 assets, we'll start shifting towards East and also maybe the Balkans. So I mean, we look at, and actually right now, we are looking at a few opportunities further East, even in the Baltics. But let's say our preferred, let's say, location for our seed portfolio would be ideally Central Europe. But of course, we're covering the whole region.
And you're always looking, of course, at the existing properties, correct?
We're looking exactly, yeah. So the focus on is existing properties. We might consider developments if we know that construction is ongoing and deliveries within 3 or 6 months. So we know exactly in terms of cash flow how to forecast this. So it gives us a bit more security, let's say. But yeah, the focus on investment properties. And as far as contracts are concerned, we'll try to sign leases as much as possible. We know that some of the operators, that the feedback we get from operators is that they're getting less and less comfortable with leases at the moment, given the current conditions. But we try to find, let's say, flexible terms that would work for us as well as operators, where we can work for a year or 2 with GOP percentage rather than turnover rent percentage. And normally we work with hybrid leases, so turnover rent and minimum guaranteed rent. And we can consider dropping the minimum guaranteed rent for a year or 2 because we know the conditions are not ideal. So we try to be flexible. At the end of the day, for us, when we work with operators, it's supposed to be a partnership. We don't have a tenant and we say, okay, pay us the rent. We are hoteliers, we are experienced in this field, and we want to work hand in hand with them and try to, let's say, get some upside and share the upside.
But it's interesting, you're saying you're looking at the key markets, meaning the city centers or the key cities. And for the last year, it showed that this crisis actually proved that leisure markets worked much better than the city ones. And now that I talk to many business people, they think that business travel is not going to come back so fast. So I'm really keen to understand what is your logic in this.
I completely understand, and I'd be the first one to tell you that. I mean, I agree with a lot of people actually on the market. Leisure clientele is the clientele that will come back. As people are desperate to go on holidays, they will go back to hotels, and this will pick up very quickly. As far as business clientele is concerned, I think we have 2 things. We have the conference side. Very large conferences might struggle. Smaller conferences, the ones which are like experts in their field, I think will work on very well. And then we have the normal business clientele, and I think they still have to travel. And we see it now. I mean, the trouble is that you still have travelers going all around the region because they have to for work. So I think this will come back. I agree on the fact that business clientele will, generally speaking, take more time to recover. But that actually gives us a very good reason to look at the market right now, because that means that these properties might be slightly more in distress situation, which will have an impact on pricing, and which means that we can buy properties at a discounted level. So actually, for us, it is the right move to make.
Okay. Now I see your point. Now, Tommy, you worked for investment fund for the principal real estate, overlooking the investments in the entire Europe. You came back to CEE. Why you think that investment in CEE is a good one? And what are the differences? Is it still, it was always the discussion, Western Europe is it's not that risky. It doesn't bring as high returns, but CEE is always more riskier and investors are not too open to it. So what is your view now on this?
Well, the thing is that there's 2 points. The first of all, on the macroeconomic level, we still see that Central European economies and even Eastern Europe, or if I can actually talk about the Balkans as well, the pace at which GDP grows in these regions is still faster than what we have in Western Europe. People are getting wealthier, wages are going up as well. So on the macroeconomic level, the economies are still catching up, and this will have an impact, a positive impact on the business, generally speaking, and then on the hotel business. As far as the hotel sector is concerned, thanks to that growing business clientele and also leisure clientele, because if we look at the growth pace as well, as far as traveling is concerned, it's growing at a faster pace here in the region. We believe that this will have a positive impact on ADRs. And ADRs has, let's say, 2 positive impacts at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You increase your revenue, but you also improve your GOP margins. And that's one thing that we don't see at the moment in Western Europe, is that GOP margins are decent, but the GOP margins are still higher here in Central Europe. So that's one thing actually which is quite interesting. And of course, I mean, something which is European-wide is that, generally speaking, we will see opportunities all across Europe. So that's not a difference between all regions. But we might see smaller operators here in the region, which might be in a more distressed situation. The operators who are investing quite often in Western Europe are larger, either investor or operators, and they might be able to navigate through the crisis slightly easier than what smaller operators are doing here in the region.
And what do you think that, well, I know it's hard to say, especially after what we've seen happen last year and no one expected, but what do you think that, what kind of hotels are going to be the winners in 3 to 5 years?
There's 2 things for me. I mean, if I look only at short term, I'd say for sure branded hotels. People need to be comfortable that in terms of hygienic standards, everything's perfect. And don't get me wrong, I think plenty of small operators are doing a fantastic job. The key thing is communication. So will they have the budget to communicate on that and say, we're doing everything perfect so that you guys are comfortable? And I think actually so far we've seen the big branded hotels, and because they have the budget, the communication budget to do so, to say, this is what we're doing. So let's say you check into your room, no one came in 24 hours before, they have leaflets that they distribute, there's a message that they convey, and maybe the small operators, they don't have all this organization to communicate on this. If we're talking long term, let's say 3 to 5 years, as you said before, I think the winners, and it's not necessarily for me driven by COVID, but well, actually, in some ways, maybe linked to it. It's the hotels that integrate within the local community. So let's say you have a hotel that has a restaurant and ground floor, which is open to local clientele and is actually trying to drive local clientele. You can have a shared office space where people who actually live in the city come here to work during the day, and then they can use the F&B facilities. It's hotels that try to blend in and that don't not only generate business through tourist or business clientele coming from abroad, but also people who work with local demand. And that's, for me, something which is very important, and that's something that people will probably think about.
Okay. And well, maybe my last question is, when do you think that the CEE is going to see the numbers that we had in 2019? So would it be years or?
If I had to guess, I'd probably say around 2023. From the discussions I had with, over the last few weeks with operators, investors, even banks, a lot of people are convinced that actually 2023 will be quite decent, almost, let's say, as good as 2019. And that's said that 2024 is likely to be slightly better than 2019. So it'll take some time, but at least we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So as far as all vaccination programs go well here in Europe, I reckon 2022 might already be something pretty decent. So maybe I'm being too, let's say, optimistic, but I'm thinking that 2022 will not be too bad. But,
I have actually one more question is, when you now are looking to invest in hotels, are you looking at the sustainability element? Are you looking to be carbon zero, or at least at some level that can lower the expenses, but not only the expenses, also the emissions that the hotel has?
Yep, absolutely. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned this. We're actually at the moment working with a small company. I won't mention the name yet because we haven't signed anything yet with them.
Please don't. It will sound like
exactly. No, exactly. Well, I'd be happy actually to make a bit of publicity for these guys because they're doing a fantastic job, and actually they work with a lot of operators and working on all these, as you say, carbon neutral emissions, green energies, and trying to limit our consumption and our wastage. So we're going to implement this actually for a hotel here in Smithton Hotel, and our plan is to do that for all the properties that we'll have in the fund. So that's actually the plan that we have. And I think that's the right way forward for all operators. It does not require a lot of effort, and that's something we have to do, something which is good for the planet. It doesn't cost us anything, and it's a good thing. And it's true that actually some of the investors we talk to sometimes say we favor investing in funds that actually, give a bit of their time and effort into thinking, into these strategies. So that's something which is key for us, and that will be a big subject in the future, I think.
Just go back a little bit about the one answer that you said. You said that you don't think that the big conference is going to come back so soon. So as we are in the conferencing business, tell me what you think about it. Would you go for a hotel that has a venue for 2,000 people, or would you prefer just the 300?
I personally, I said that I would go. I mean, I'd be quite comfortable as long as I know that all measures are in place to make sure that we're not taking any risk. I'm not sure whether that'll be everyone's case. As far as your kind of conferences are concerned, I'm sure that it'll pick up very quickly because first of all, they bring expertise into one specific hotel asset class in a region, which is not the case of the very large conferences. And for me, that's a key thing. And I think people will be a bit more comfortable in doing so. So I think the smaller conferences are the ones actually who will be winners actually in the coming 2 to 3 years. And the big ones will take time actually to recover. I think they'll be back to normal probably in 3-4 years, but the smaller ones might be back already in 6 to 12 months because people need to, especially we all focus on special regions, especially here in the region. So we'll need to go back to these conferences because that's, at the end of the day, that's how we make business. I see it. If I go on business travel and I try to organize trips, let's say, for instance, I go to Zagreb, if I manage to line up 3 or 4 meetings within a day, I'll be very happy. That's a productive day. If I go to one of your conferences, I can meet 15 people, have 15-minute slots, talk to all of them, and even then at the end of the day, have a good time with them, have a drink. And then that's a good way as well to make businesses informal. When you organize your own trip, you don't have that informal bit at the end, which is a good way to make business as well. So that's why I'm sure that the smaller conferences will be back soon.
That means that I'll see you in Zagreb either in June or the second part of the year.
With great pleasure. You count me in, for sure. You count me in.
Nicolas, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
My pleasure.
Great day in Prague, and hope to see you soon.
In Zagreb. Yeah, for sure. My pleasure. Take care.
Bye. Bye, Nicolas.